image lingers on screen. Creased paper, looping ink, an intimate glimpse into a handwritten note that was never meant to ignite a storm. And yet, here we are, staring at it, analyzing every curve of every letter, every choice of word, every slip of the pen. Because sometimes it's the smallest detail that sparks the loudest conversation. A quiet, or rather, quite revealing moment. And that single word, circled, magnified, almost trembling under scrutiny, becomes the centerpiece of a narrative far larger than the ink that formed it. Now, listen closely. This is not merely about handwriting. This is not simply about a misplaced vowel. This is about perception, expectation, and the razor-sharp lens placed upon figures like Catherine, Princess of Wales, and Meghan Markle. It's about the weight of comparison, the theater of public opinion, and the almost theatrical hunger for contrast. Because once that image surfaced, dear sir, thank you for your kind hospitality at Wimbledon last week. It didn't just sit quietly in a display case anymore. It traveled, it spread, it was dissected. Quiet instead of quite. A simple error, or, depending on who's speaking, a scandal in miniature. And suddenly, the tone shifts. Kate doesn't know the difference between quiet and quite either. So much for being expensively educated. Fumbling, mumbling, Kate has spelling issues. The words land sharply, don't they? Almost like darts thrown across a crowded room. But beneath that sting lies something deeper, a fascination with imperfection in a world that demands flawlessness. Because the expectation surrounding royalty, or those adjacent to it, is not merely competence. It is mere mythical precision, grace without cracks, elegance without error. And when even a single word falters, it becomes spectacle. The letter itself speaks of warmth, of gratitude, of a day at Wimbledon, sunlit, cheerful, human. My friend and I had such a fantastic time. There's sincerity in that phrasing, a softness, a genuine appreciation for hospitality, a glimpse into a moment that, stripped of scrutiny, feels entirely ordinary. But ordinary is never allowed to remain ordinary in this arena, because immediately the comparison machine whirs into life. They really asked Megan Sussex to be 50% less because she was dealing with a woman who can't even spell Australia? The contrast is drawn, bold and unapologetic. On one side, perceived polish, articulation, a Californian confidence. On the other, a British reserve now questioned over a single lexical slip. Why do they always compare Megan Sussex to weighty Katie? And there it is. The nickname, loaded with history, dripping with implication. A relic of tabloid culture that refuses to stay buried. It resurfaces here, not as nostalgia, but as ammunition. Come on, derangers, you can do better than this. The language sharpens again, dividing audiences into camps. Lines are drawn, allegiances declared. Because in this narrative, neutrality rarely survives. For we, the squatties, always have evidence, archives of lots of evidence. That letter over there was written by Kate's handwriting. Evidence. The word echoes with authority, as though this single sheet of paper, with its looping cursive and human imperfection, stands as proof of something far greater than it actually does. And then the final blow, delivered with theatrical flair. Beauty without brain doesn't go hand in hand. Clock that, derangers. It's bold. It's provocative. It's designed to sting and to stick. But step back for a moment, and the scene becomes even more intriguing. Because what we're witnessing isn't really about spelling at all. It's about narrative control. It's about how two women, both global figures, both endlessly scrutinized, are positioned against each other in a story that refuses to let either simply exist. One must be the foil to the other. One must rise as the other falls. One must shine while the other is dimmed. And every tiny detail, every word, every gesture, every handwritten note becomes material for that ongoing drama. The irony? The letter itself speaks of peace, of enjoying a day knowing there could be a little peace and quiet, or quite, depending on how one reads it. A moment away from chaos, a brief escape from intensity. Yet now, that very sentence has become the opposite of peaceful. It has become noise, loud, relentless, echoing across conversations, comment sections, and commentary like this one. And perhaps that's the most fascinating twist of all. Because in the end, what lingers isn't the error, it's the reaction to it, the magnification, the interpretation, the way a single handwritten word can ignite debate, sarcasm, emotion, and rivalry all at once. So the image stays on screen a moment longer. The circled word, the flowing script, the quiet or quite imperfection. And the question hangs in the air, deliciously unresolved. Is this really about spelling? Or is it about the story we're so eager to tell? Or is it about the story we're so eager to tell? Because once that question settles, the atmosphere shifts again, subtly at first, then unmistakably. The focus is no longer fixed solely on ink and paper, but on the machinery behind the reaction, the rhythm of outrage, the choreography of comparison, the almost ritualistic need to elevate one narrative by diminishing another. And the image refuses to fade. That handwritten note, delicate, imperfect, undeniably human, continues to hover in the collective imagination, not as a private gesture of gratitude, but as a public artifact, dissected far beyond its original intention. The loops of the letters become symbols. The spacing between words becomes evidence. Even the tone, polite, warm, entirely conventional, becomes part of a larger performance. Because in this arena, nothing is ever just what it seems. The phrase lingers again, almost teasingly, a little peace and quiet, or quite, and suddenly the irony deepens. A letter expressing appreciation for calm becomes the epicenter of noise. A moment meant to acknowledge hospitality transforms into a spectacle of scrutiny, and the audience, ever watchful, ever vocal, leans in closer, hungry for meaning, for contradiction, for confirmation of whatever narrative they already hold. And that's where the real tension begins to unfold. Because the reactions are never neutral. They are charged, layered, often laced with history that stretches far beyond a single page of handwriting. Old headlines resurface in the background. Past interviews echo faintly. Public personas, carefully curated over years, are dragged back into the spotlight and measured against this one fleeting detail. Kate doesn't know the difference between quiet and quite either. The statement returns, almost like a refrain, sharper now because it's been repeated, reinforced, absorbed into the rhythm of commentary. It's no longer just an observation. It's an accusation, a conclusion, a verdict delivered without hesitation. So much for being expensively educated. There's a sting in that line, a deliberate emphasis on expectation versus perceived reality. Education, privilege, refinement, these are not just attributes in this context. They are benchmarks, standards that must be met flawlessly, without exception. And when a single word appears to fall short, it becomes symbolic of something much larger. Fumbling, mumbling. Kate has spelling issues. The phrasing grows more theatrical, more exaggerated, almost playful in its sharpness. Yet beneath the sarcasm lies a deeper question. Why does this matter so much? Why does a minor slip resonate so loudly? Because perhaps it offers something rare, an opening, a crack in the polished surface, a moment where perfection feels just slightly out of reach. And that, in itself, becomes irresistible. Then the comparison resurfaces, inevitable and immediate. They really asked Megan Sussex to be 50% less because she was dealing with a woman who can't even spell Australia? The contrast is drawn once more, bold and unapologetic. It doesn't pause to consider nuance or context. It thrives on juxtaposition. One figure is framed as articulate, composed, effortlessly precise. The other, through the lens of this single error, is cast as lacking. But the reality, of course, is far more complex than that binary allows. Because both women exist within a system that amplifies everything. Every gesture, every word, every silence. A system that thrives on contrast, on tension, on the constant rebalancing of public perception. And so the question rises again, sharper this time. Why do they always compare Megan Sussex to Wady Katie?
It's not just a question. It's a challenge, a refusal to accept the narrative as it stands, a pushback against the framing that has been repeated so often it almost feels automatic. Yet the nickname lingers, heavy with implication, a reminder of how long these narratives have been in motion, how deeply they are embedded in public discourse, how easily they can be revived, repurposed, reignited. Come on, derangers, you can do better than this. The tone shifts again, becoming more confrontational, more direct. The audience is no longer passive. It is being addressed, provoked, invited to respond. Because this isn't just about observation anymore. It's about participation. For we, the squatties, always have evidence, archives of lots of evidence. The word archives carries weight. It suggests depth, history, a collection of moments carefully preserved and ready to be deployed. Not just this letter, but countless others. Interviews, appearances, speeches, all forming a tapestry of material that can be interpreted, reinterpreted, and used to support whichever narrative is being advanced. That letter over there was written by Kate's handwriting. A simple statement, yet delivered with certainty, as though it anchors the entire argument, as though the authenticity of the handwriting transforms the observation into undeniable proof. And then, once more, the line that refuses to be ignored. Beauty without brain doesn't go hand in hand. Clock that, derangers. It lands with theatrical finality, almost like the closing note of a dramatic performance. Yet instead of ending the conversation, it fuels it further, because statements like that don't settle. They provoke. They invite agreement. They invite outrage. They invite endless debate. And so the cycle continues, because the image remains, the letter remains, the circled word remains, and the interpretations multiply. Some see a harmless mistake, a fleeting oversight in an otherwise thoughtful note. Others see something more telling, something that aligns with pre-existing beliefs about competence, intelligence, authenticity. And neither side is willing to let go. Because letting go would mean relinquishing the narrative. And the narrative is everything. It shapes perception, it defines allegiance, it determines how every future moment will be interpreted. A smile becomes calculated or genuine depending on the story already in place. A speech becomes eloquent or rehearsed depending on which lens is applied. And now, even a handwritten quiet becomes a battleground. The tension builds not from the word itself, but from what it represents. The expectations placed upon those in the public eye. The relentless scrutiny that turns minor details into major talking points. The way audiences, divided into camps, amplify those details until they eclipse everything else. And somewhere within all of this, the original intention of the letter, gratitude, warmth, appreciation, becomes almost secondary. Almost. Because if one listens closely, beneath the noise, it's still there.
That's all for now, squatties. It's your get-to-go girlfriend, Annabelle Karras, and I'm so thankful you joined me today. Remember, Stay bold and never dim your shine in this wild and wonderful world. Until next time, just so you know, as your fellow squatties, I love you all to the moon and back.